Welcome back to the GoLoud Sessions with myself, Fanula J. I am delighted to be joined by my next guests, another pair that I've been dying to chat to for a while, and one of my favourite podcasts, without a doubt. One that has grown, I would say, hugely within the last 6 months, and I'd say the only way is up for them, and I'm very, very excited. I have the gals from the Unpopular Opinion here, Karla K and Jen Hatton. Thank you so much for chatting to me.
Hi, how are
Thanks
you?
for having us.
So talk to me about the Unpopular Opinion and where that came from in terms of you sitting down and being like, right, okay, let's make a podcast. Talk to me about like day one to present day and the journey, so to speak.
Jen, you want to start? Yeah.
So I first came across Karla in her very famous Leave It in 2017 rant. So if nobody knows what that is, it's basically she got on and had a lot of observations about the year 2017 and just wanted to give it the electric chair, essentially. So that got that went absolutely mental. I think that's how a lot of people heard about Karla. So became very good friends, obviously, because, the pessimism. And then we just chatted back and forward online. And then Karla went traveling and we were like, we need to meet up when you come home or whatever. So we met up when she came home. We were like, we need to do something. And it was around the time of Bloggers Unveiled. So it was like, we need to do something. We need to create content around this. We wanted to do, was it like something stupid, like a documentary or something? Yeah, wasn't it? Oh my God, I'm cringing now thinking about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was very bad.
Do you remember? So on a drunken night in December, I think it was like the Boomers Christmas party, Karla was like, let's do a podcast. And I said, yeah, let's do a podcast. And that's how the Unpopular Opinion was born.
For anyone who's unfamiliar with the podcast, could you describe it? Like, sell it to anyone who's maybe never listened and you want to reel them in. What's it all about?
I suppose we pick different topics. So what happened when we wanted to make something that was going to be kind of evergreens, that we could kind of keep going with, that it wasn't really, really subjective, and something that we could definitely continue on with, because I mean, we've no plans of slowing down. Definitely not. But we want to do something really subjective. So what we do is we pick a different topic every week. We use a lot of our audience opinions too. So it is just an opinion piece. It's me and Jen just kind of hashing it out. I mean, we always say this, we're not prime time. We're not going to be getting into the real thick nit and gritty. It's just more of kind of something fun. And it really is supposed to be easy listening. And I think that's why a lot of people have stuck with us, because you can kind of just whack it on whenever. You don't have to listen to a full series. If there's a topic that you don't like, you don't have to listen. And we've done everything. We've gone from religion to things that we loved to do when we were growing up as kids, to celebrity crushes, to sleepovers, all the way to talking about the rental crisis. We do it all. Cover it all.
I think that's exactly what people need at the minute as well, that kind of bit of escapism. And I'm noticing it more and more, that anytime someone comments on a podcast that they particularly like, something that comes up is like, oh, it's like I'm in the room with them. It's like I'm in the room with friends. I think that's very much what you're about. I think that's why people vibe with you so much. What's been your favourite episode that you've done so far, if you can pick? I know it's like picking a kid, but I'm making you pick a kid.
It is like picking a kid.
Oh, wow. So it's kind of... So obviously we have the main episodes, and we have Patreon as well. So it's like, let me just try and think of the main episodes, the recent ones. I love the hacks one. I think is actually my favorite. We did one on life hacks, and we talked about all of the hack videos that you come across online, and just the little the things that you come across online that they're stupid, they're so stupid, and we do talk about that, but we ended up doing it on it because we have social media as well. So we did it on the Instagram for it was a week or two, and we were trying out some of the hacks. I really enjoyed that.
That one was a good one. I really liked, and it's a bit of a weird one, because it wasn't our funniest episode, but I love the one that we did on saving money.
Yeah.
That one was one that I think the one why I liked that one the most is because we got such good feedback. And, you know, we had a lot of people writing into us being like, oh my God, like I'm actually after changing the way that like I've asked for, you know, a mortgage pause, or I didn't know you could do this. And we got this, one of our listeners is a financial, what would you call it?
She was an advisor, and we keep everybody anonymous, so we called her Miss Moneypenny.
Because we're gas.
Gas.
We're just so funny girls. But we got her on anyway, and just like her advice itself was great. I loved that for the pure crack. I thought that was a really fun episode. And then I suppose other episodes that have stood out, the one on dating, we got a good bit of feedback. People love an old dating story.
Yeah, the dating one and the Jebs one as well. Like the throwback ones always get.
The Debs one was absolutely comical, because some of the stories that people were writing in, you just wouldn't hear of it anywhere else. Like you had like people that got stranded and got a lift on a JCB. There was people who like just mad stories that just never would have actually ever happened. People who ended up at the Leisureplex, all this kind of crack. So those were kind of some standout episodes.
That just reminded me, I was on the Debs committee for my Debs, and obviously took it very seriously, being the person that I am. And
you were an Aoife. We named those people Aoifes. I don't know why. No offense to any Aoifes, we just did it.
Was an Aoife, no offense to any Aoifes. I will counter that. And I ended up winning Biggest Diva on the night of my Debs, which was fairly apt. Loved that award, still have it. But then, because we organised everything, whatever way I did with Leisureplex, we didn't actually pay for like everyone. Like not everyone was covered for the bowling. So cue me having to pay like whatever I had left in my clutch bag, which was not a lot, girls. I bought a lot of shots. It was not good. There were some very unhappy people on
the scenes on the
there were scenes.
Yeah,
there were
absolutely
scenes. There were scenes. How have you found recording in 2020, just even beyond having to do it virtually? I mean, I know from doing the podcast myself, like sometimes it can be really hard when it's like Corona 24/7. It can be hard to come up with kind of these ideas and everyone's feeling a bit low. How have you found that yourselves?
I think if we weren't so lucky with the listeners that we have and the core following that we have, I think it would have been very difficult. And what I've noticed now is like a lot of our listeners, or even people coming over to my own social media page, kind of are asking about doing a podcast because people have time now. So they've kind of time, they have an idea and they want to hash it out. And 2020 has been such a weird one because there's not really a lot going on. And we kind of have, I feel like we totally changed our content this year to being more lighthearted, because we don't need any more misery. We don't need any more like hardship, essentially. Well,
that's it. And because it's such a topical podcast as well, like last year we could kind of say something would happen, like it was the divorce or the blasphemy referendum and the divorce referendum and stuff like that. We were able to kind of talk about it a week or two later after the actual event had happened, whereas this year it's not really happening and nobody wants to be talking about COVID-19 anymore. So we did just I suppose the technical side of it has gotten a lot harder, because you can't be together and it's not as easy as just, you know yourself when you say something and you're like, oh, I don't really want to put that in it, to pause it, go back over it or whatever. You have to, like, it's hours of editing after the fact, which is a good bit harder. But I suppose the content I'm finding is actually, I'm enjoying it a lot more this year. For like, it's kind of the opposite of what you think. Like,
same. I think it can be, look, no matter what, when you decide to, and that's the first thing that I think me and Jen say to anyone, and you're probably the same, Fionnuala, like if you want to start a podcast, people are like, what about mics and what about this and what about that? And I'm like, what about your idea? Like, what about the content? What are you going to do? And you really have to push on, because I know there's been times where both me and Jen have just been wrecked and we're like, oh God, we actually, like, it's only once a week, but we're like, we have to do this. Oh my God, we have to do this. And this year has been the same, where I've been like, actually, I enjoy this. It's a bit of escapism, and I think we're both really proud of what has kind of happened, and it has just kind of taken off, which is great, obviously, but it's not something that not that it's not something that we ever thought was going to happen, but it is still shocking. I think to the two of us, we're still shocked sometimes that it's a success.
Yeah. Well, like you said at the start, Vanilla, like the last 6 months really has kind of amped up for us, and it just kind of, because you're at it for so long, and a podcast is a passion project to begin with. Like, you don't go into, unless you're doing it for something specific, you're not going into it for the money or for exposure. You're literally going in it to do this out of pure passion. So when it does well, and obviously we were at it for like a year before it really started taking off, it's kind of it's my baby now, you know? Whereas before it was just like me having a chat.
We're business women. Say what? Now we're business
female entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Boss
got this.
Babes.
Boss bitches.
In terms of guests, you've had some great interviews. Jen Karla is a standout for me, and your interview about domestic abuse, such a worthwhile listen. If anyone is watching this and is looking for a good kind of dip-in point, I would recommend that one. But just, let's go blue sky thinking here. If you could have anyone on the podcast, who would you have and why?
Anyone.
I always ask Jen this. I'm always like, let's think big, girl.
Like, if there was no, like, we did think big. We sent Jedward an email. We're still waiting on a reply, but anyway.
Jedward, come on.
Jedward, yeah.
What are you doing?
Patron saint of 2020. If there was no limits at all, I would love somebody like, you know, just that notorious kind of like Robert De Niro or Morgan Freeman, or just like a good storyteller. David Attenborough, give me him. Do you know, I'd love to have someone like that on. Like Karla's dad would.
I would thoroughly enjoy a podcast
on my
with him,
list.
to be honest.
Still trying to get him. We love Ray.
We're trying our best, but he's too shy. Everybody says, actually, the amount of people that are like, can we get your dad on? And I'm like, if he said yeah, that would be fair. But he doesn't want to. So I'm very sorry about that. I suppose for me, like, I love a funny one. Like we had Alison Spittle on, and it was just, she's so quick and she's so humorous. It was just brilliant. I was like, you're just so sharp. And I love people that are really sharp. So I'd probably go, like, for somebody who's in comedy, I don't actually particularly like Ricky Gervais, but I think he would be an excellent guest.
Yes.
And that's such a basic hun answer. But I think that you could really kind of go places with them and push them. And I think you could get like you could kind of go between humor into like full-blown politics and back to, you know, having a laugh about something that you did when you were younger. So I think as far as interesting guests, I'd love someone like him. Because I think it's so easy. Like, Ireland is such a small pond, and even when we're doing guest stars and stuff, everyone seems to be pulling from the same. Everyone has the same guest stars. We're like, whoa, who's it gonna be? Oh, here we go again. But yeah, so I'd say probably I know that's such a basic answer. I'd say you're like cringing in your boots there, but what can I say? I'm a basic gal.
No, I think you're dead right. Sometimes you need a bit of a contrarian to kind of stir up those talking points, but also have a laugh with. So I get where you're coming from. And just finally, I suppose, what's the rest of 2020 looking like for the Unpopular Opinion and beyond? Like, what's next for you?
I suppose what we would have loved to do kind of in the last 6 months, because it's after kind of getting that bit bigger, would be to do live shows. But obviously it's just the arts is just shot this year. So that would be, I suppose, the next step that we'd like to look at. So doing live shows and just keep going the way that we're going. I particularly love when it's coming up to the end of something. So like last year we did it was like a Reeling in the Year episode. I love that sort of stuff, looking back on what's happened and rehashing everything there, because some of the stuff has just been mad. So the 2020 episode is going to be lit. But I suppose we'll just keep going, trying to make people laugh for the rest of the year, and then hopefully, I don't know why everybody thinks 2021 is going to be like a switch. We're going to be grand, but because we're definitely not. But let's be optimistic here, girls.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Full could do a full episode on like people's misgivings already around 2021 and how that's just gonna, I don't know,
Yeah.
everything's gonna be amazing. I'm not entirely sure. I think for us, yeah, as Jen said, definitely would love to explore live shows. I think we've really hit our groove with the content that we're delivering at the moment, and the fact that we are doing kind of, you know, more nostalgic and more kind of memory-based themes. I think people love that, especially because it's like a big duvet. It's like a big cuddly duvet with nail fire going. Like, people love that kind of stuff. And I think it's something that we do well, because it's just a bit more, not interesting, obviously, but it's a bit more like, you know, you can pop it on or you can really give it a listen. You can do it while you're driving, anything along those lines. So I'd love to develop that a bit more and kind of have, I suppose, develop our brand. And I hate that word. I hate all of that. But like, develop us and our podcast, because I think a lot of the times me and Jen, we are not the most planner kind of people.
Oh gosh, no, we're definitely not.
At all.
We'll do a blueprint of the month, will we? Yeah, no, never happens. What are we
Vision
recording?
boards.
What are we doing this week? What are we doing?
Blank. Yeah, which is great because it is such a switch on kind of thing, which means that we've been able to do stuff that's super topical before. But I think I think for us, I'd love to kind of just establish ourselves. Ireland is small for podcasts, but there's a ton of them. And I feel like it was funny because we had Adam O'Reilly, who from Mind Poppers podcast, we had him on, and he was kind of saying as well, there's an awful lot of shite you've to wade through in the podcast kind of variation of the world. There's an awful lot of podcasts out there, and to be a standout podcast is an achievement in itself, and to be one that people talk about. And even now, like, if people recognize me, not that happens ever, but a few times it has happened, and people are like, oh my God, I love your podcast. And I'm like, oh, I forgot about that. Oh, I do that. Oh, I totally forgot about that. And it's nice to kind of have that. So I suppose really like develop our brand, hopefully do a few more live shows, and just make people laugh. I just want to make people laugh. That's all.
Yeah.
And just have a bit of crack. Like, not, life isn't always that serious. There's a ton of brilliant, hard-hitting podcasts out there. We're just not one of them. And that's okay.
Couldn't have said it better myself. You're exactly the tonic I think people need right now and beyond. So I want to wish you the very best of luck. I have no doubt that you're going to go onwards and upwards. So big thank you, Karla and Jen from The Unpopular Opinion. You can listen to The Unpopular Opinion on GoLoud. They are on social media at The Unpopular Opinion 2020 on Instagram. And as mentioned, they have a Patreon. If you have a spare few bob, please support them, because as we mentioned, the arts are in dire straits at the minute. So let's support them where we can. So thanks a million, guys, and hopefully chat to you again soon.
Thanks so
much.
Yay! Yeah, that's